How's it going, world? I am Toby, artist, illustrator, drawer of stuff that is not there, and proud meat vehicle that carries around Toby's brain. Man, that sounded a lot less weird inside my own head. Anyway, as you can see here, I'm doing some drawing. I am working on a panel from my webcomic. It's Plunger Monkey's... Can I speak? Apparently not. That's why I draw the pictures. It's a panel from my webcomic. It's Plunger Monkey Dynamo Time, which you can find over at my website, tobysbrain.com. That's TOBYS-BRAIN. Not Toby's Brian, Toby's Brain. So I'm going to try to do some voiceover here while I work. Obviously, this is not real time. I wish I could draw this fast. I'd get a heck of a lot more done. But anyway, yeah, so I've been an artist all my life. It's been a kind of an interrupted process. Went through the typical artist burnout and depression after college. Started getting back into things, started a family, became a stay-at-home dad, took about 10 years off, where I wasn't really making much art, just trying to raise my kids the best I could. Then once they were all in school, I was able to get back in the studio and sort of unleash all the things that had been building up inside my brain for the last decade. One of which is this here comic strip. So when I started getting back in the studio, one of the things that I started doing, aside from criticizing myself and hating the way I drew faces, I decided, well, I'll do something about that. I took up that whole Inktober challenge, which some of you may have heard of. So for the entire month of October back in 2015, I decided I was going to do self-portraits for the entire month. So I did. And I got a little better at drawing myself. It was just a good habit to be drawing every day, working in ink. And I decided that I wanted to continue, but I needed to do something other than make faces at myself in the mirror and then draw it. So that kind of morphed into a comic strip. I sort of introduced my character, Plunger Monkey Dynamo, who has sort of been a figment of my imagination for I don't know how many years now, since 1999-ish. So you do the math. It's not my strong suit. Whatever year it is now, since 1999. Anyway. So I imported Plunger Monkey Dynamo, and it kind of turned into this little bit of a comic strip. I only work on it like a panel at a time, really. Just because I've got a lot of other stuff going on, a lot of other time constraints. I'm still a stay-at-home dad. And that, takes up a lot of time. Kids have a lot of extracurricular activities and trying to do stuff as a family, and so anyway, I like drawing on a bigger sheet of paper than working on something smaller and working, closer to the actual panel size. It probably would streamline the process and be a lot faster if I just worked digitally, but I enjoy the process of getting my hands dirty and working with pencil and then pen and ink. I do still do other things digitally. I design t-shirts for my own Etsy shop. I've got some other comic book and graphic novel ideas that I'm working on, and that's all done digitally. But this is kind of like a self-indulgent kind of project. So new strips don't come out regularly or as frequently as I'd like, but it is what it is. So in case it's not entirely clear, since I didn't really show my face at the start of this video, that is a drawing of me. I am one of the characters in this comic strip. It's sort of an adventure with myself and as I said, my character Plunger Monkey Dynamo. Right now we're kind of having an interesting little conversation, which if you go to my website you'll read what that's all about. But so yeah, I started out with a pencil drawing. I just kind of tried to get the rough shape of the panel, get the panel size right, because once I'm finished inking, I scan it in, and I dump it into Photoshop, and I resize it, and play with the brightness and contrast, so it's a nice crisp white and black kind of deal going on. And then that's how I put the strips together. So that mechanical pencil that I was using, that's to the right of my tablet there, I've had that thing for, I don't know, probably decades. You probably can't quite make it out, but it says Vision 3 Architects on the side. And that was my dad's architectural firm that he started up with a couple of buddies of his. He's retired now. But yeah, that pencil was always kind of special to me because it came, it had my dad's logo on it. So I always thought that was pretty cool. And I've kept it and used it for all these years. And it still works. It's still functioning after all the miles put on it. So I'm pretty happy about that. Right now, I think I'm using one of my Pigma markers. I've got kind of a whole mess of different inking tools I use. I started out, when I first started this project, I was using Copic, I think you say Copic, multi-liners. I started out with some of the disposable ones, and then I upgraded to the refillable kind. And then I kind of branched out to some other companies and products, testing things out from there. And that is 100% because of my wife, because she, in addition to just plain supporting me and my craziness and what I do, she is the queen of research. If I ever need an answer to something, I'll ask her, and if she doesn't know, she'll go find it for me. So she did a bunch of research about different types of pens that artists used. I mean, I should have done that myself, but I couldn't be bothered. My brain doesn't function that way. So she just handed me a box full of all these different types of pens and markers that she had ordered. So I'm still kind of working my way through them. I don't even know if I've tried out all the different kinds that she's got me. I've kind of gravitated to a couple that I liked right from the get-go. These Pigma markers being one of them. It's nice felt, flexible tip. I don't know if it's felt, but whatever it is, it's flexible. They're brush markers. I've got them in 3 different thicknesses, the fine, the medium, and the broad brush. I mostly use the fine and the broad. I like using the medium. The broad's a little too big for the size that I'm working at. I'll use that to fill in some heavier black areas. But mostly it's the medium tip I use to do some of the heavier contours and outlines, and then I switch up to the fine tip. I've also started using some mangaka markers, which is popular in the manga community, I hear. And those are just, if anybody's familiar with like the micron pens, they come in different, really fine tip points, in addition to some brush tips. The brush tip I have, that's right there I'm using the medium, or maybe that's even the broad Pigma marker. Anyway, I do have a brush tipped mangaka pen marker, whatever you want to call it, and I like that one a lot because it's a little stiffer, so I can get some finer lines, just using the tip and light pressure, or I can kind of bear down on it a little more and get some good line variation going on, different line weights. And there's a couple of other pens and markers that I will use, some of which I don't even know the names of because they've got Japanese kanji on the side, so I don't know what that means. Don't have a strict process that I go through, I guess. Beyond the general, I'll do the pencils first, and then I work on an outline, and then spot the blacks, and then little details and things. But I do a separate step, just because I'm not entirely confident in my inking, and that's I kind of go back in with pencil, and I spot where I want all the shadows to be, and some of the hatch marks and other details and things. just, rough them out in pencil once I've already got the main shapes and contours in, just so I can make adjustments in case I don't like something. And then I'll come back in, usually with a finer pen of some kind, whether it's one of the mangakas or I've started trying to use some of my Copic multi-liners again, just because I've got them. They're refillable. I've got a bunch of refills for them, and replacement nibs and stuff. So I need to make use of them. I don't know how people do these voiceovers and they talk the entire time they're drawing or painting or whatever they're doing, and they got stuff to say and stuff to talk about. All right, so I'm going back in and I'm doing some shadow cross-hatching and things of that nature. I've kind of been going back and forth within this comic strip, trying to decide, or try to find my style, I guess. Plunger Monkey is a very cartoony, expressive character, and I spent some time trying to make myself similarly cartoony, but I keep gravitating back towards a more realistic style when I'm drawing myself or other humans. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I should loosen up more and push it more cartoony. I haven't quite figured that out yet, but one of the reasons I'm doing the comic strip is to discover all these things, just hone my skills, find my style, so that as I start working on some of the other bigger projects that I have in mind, all that stuff is already figured out. One of the things that I kind of went back to playing around with in this particular panel was the way in which I do the shadows. For a couple of strips now, I've been just doing, when I kind of mark the location of where the shadows are, I just do a series of parallel vertical hatch marks, just because I liked the way it looked, and it was kind of stylistic, and it kept things light. It didn't become an overwhelming dark. But I decided for this one that I'd try and mix things up and do some like contour type shadows, making all the hatch marks follow the contours and create some volumes and forms in there. I like the way it went. I've done it before. I haven't done it in a while, I guess. So I'll be playing around with that. And there's going to be some probably back and forth as I work on the strips. Close-up shots like this one will probably require a different level of detail and maybe a slight variation of style, whereas the further away shots can be looser and more cartoony, I guess, which is kind of the way a lot of manga works, which is something I'd draw some inspiration from. Should be finishing up soon here. Use that sort of, I don't even know what the heck to call those type of hatch marks, where you get 3 or 4 short lines one direction and then you'd go in a different direction. But I've been using that a lot. It's kind of tedious, but I kind of like the way it looks in the end. There's just something zen-like about laying them down, too, that I kind of like. Well, my first time-lapse drawing is coming to an end here. Please keep your shouts of anguish and grief to a minimum, because I may do more. If you made it this long into the video and kept your sound on, I don't know what that says about you, but I appreciate it. Check out my website. If you want to decorate your torso with some of my artwork, you can head over to my Etsy page. If you're really generous and you just want to throw money my way, I do have a donate button on my website, a PayPal donate button. So anyway, thanks for watching.